Is the legendary AK-47 really superior to the classic American M14? Or is it all just hype from movies and games? Stick around because today we're diving deep into this comparison, and by the end, you'll know exactly which one edges out the other in real-world scenarios. Alright, so let's set the stage here. The AK-47 and the M14 are two icons from the Cold War era, both chambered in 7.62 caliber, but built for totally different philosophies. The AK comes from Soviet Russia, designed to be simple, cheap, and unstoppable no matter the conditions, while the M14 was America's answer, focusing on power, precision, and that traditional rifle feel. We're going to compare them head-to-head in key areas like history, design, specs, performance, handling, cost, and more. And trust me, there are some surprises in store, like how one handles mud like a champ and the other shines out longer distances. First up, let's talk about history and development, because understanding where these guns came from explains a ton about why they are the way they are. The AK-47, officially known as the Automat Kalashnikov Model 1947, was dreamed up by a guy named Mikhail Kalashnikov right after World War II. Kalashnikov was a tank mechanic in the Soviet army who got wounded in battle and started tinkering with gun designs while recovering. The Soviets had seen how effective the German STG-44 assault rifle was during the war. That thing was the first real assault rifle, firing an intermediate cartridge that wasn't as powerful as a full rifle round, but allowed for more controllable automatic fire. So in 1946, the Soviets held a competition for a new rifle, and Kalashnikov's design won after some tweaks. It was officially adopted in 1949, but mass production didn't really kick in until the mid-1950s. The first big combat test came in 1956 during the Hungarian uprising, where Soviet troops used it to suppress rebels. From there, it spread like wildfire. The Soviets gave it to their allies in the Warsaw Pact, and it became the go-to weapon for communist forces around the world. In Vietnam, North Vietnamese army soldiers and Viet Cong guerrillas carried AKs, often Chinese copies called the Type 56, and it gave US troops a run for their money in the jungles. Fast forward, and it's been used in every major conflict since then, from Afghanistan, where Mujahideen fighters turned Soviet-supplied AKs against the invaders in the 1980s, to modern wars in the Middle East. Over 75 million AK-47s and its variants have been made worldwide. Its secret? The Soviets wanted something that conscript soldiers could use without much training, something that worked in freezing Siberian winters or scorching deserts without jamming. Kalashnikov himself said he designed it for reliability above all, inspired by the harsh lessons of World War II, where Soviet troops often fought in brutal conditions with submachine guns like the PPSH-41 that were great up close but lacked range. Now, flip the coin to the M14. This one came out in the United States in the late 1950s, basically as the next step after the famous M1 Garand from World War II. After the war, the US military wanted a new standard rifle that could replace not just the Garand, but also the M1 carbine and even some submachine guns. They tested a bunch of designs, including the Belgian FN FAL, but went with the M14 because it was made in America and shared some parts with the Garand, like the gas system. It was adopted in 1957 and issued to troops starting in 1959. The M14 saw its big debut in the early days of the Vietnam War, where US Army and Marine Corps units carried it into battle against those AK-wielding enemies. But here's where it gets interesting. The M14 didn't last long as the main rifle. By the mid-1960s, it was being replaced by the M16 because the M14 was heavy, hard to control on full auto, and the powerful 7.62 by 51mm NATO round meant soldiers couldn't carry as much ammo. Still, it stuck around in roles like designated marksman or sniper rifles. The M21 variant was a beast for long-range shots. Unlike the AK, which was all about mass production and simplicity, the M14 was built with quality in mind, using better materials and tighter tolerances. It was meant for professional soldiers who could handle a more precise weapon. In Europe during the Cold War, the US planned to use M14s against potential Soviet invasions, but luckily that never happened on a large scale. Today, the M14 lives on in civilian form as the Springfield MA1, and some military units still use upgraded versions for specific tasks. Moving on to design and mechanics. This is where we get into the exterior and interior differences, like how they look and work on the inside. Starting with the AK-47's exterior. It's got that classic curved magazine, a short wooden stock or sometimes a folding metal one for paratroopers, and a simple gas block up front. The whole thing is stamped steel, which makes it cheap to produce but tough as nails. Lengthwise, it's compact at 870mm overall with a 415mm barrel. That shortness makes it great for close-quarter stuff, like clearing rooms or fighting in vehicles. The handguard is wood or sometimes plastic in modern variants, and the sights are basic iron ones, a post up front and a notch in the back, adjustable for range. No fancy rails originally, but people add them now. Inside, the AK uses a long-stroke gas piston system, where the piston is attached directly to the bolt carrier. When you fire, gas pushes the piston back, rotates the bolt to unlock it, ejects the pace, and loads a new round. It's loose-fitting on purpose so dirt and grime don't stop it from cycling. The rotating bolt has two big lugs that lock securely. Safety is a big lever on the right side that also acts as a dust cover. Flip it down for fire, up for safe. It has select fire, single shot, or full auto. No burst mode. The trigger is straightforward, a bit mushy but reliable. Contrast that with the M14's design. Exterior-wise, it's longer and more traditional, looking like an upgraded Garand with a 1,120mm overall length and a 556mm barrel. That extra length gives it better ballistics but makes it clumsier in tight spots. It has a wooden stock, often with a hump for cheek weld, and a flash suppressor at the muzzle that can also mount a bayonet. The handguard is wood too, and it comes with iron sights, aperture rear, and post front, very precise and adjustable. Modern versions add Picatinny rails for optics. Inside, it uses a short-stroke gas piston system, where the gas hits a separate piston that taps the operating rod, which then cycles the action. This is smoother and less violent than the AK's long stroke, reducing wear on parts. The bolt rotates with multiple lugs for a tight lockup. It's gas-operated like the AK, but with tighter tolerances for better accuracy. The selector switch allows semi or full auto, but full auto is hard to control because of the powerful round. Safety is a button inside the trigger guard. Overall, the M14 feels more refined, like a precision tool, while the AK is like a hammer, blunt but effective. Now let's hit the hard numbers on specifications. Caliber. AK fires the 7.62 by 39mm, a stubby intermediate cartridge with a muzzle velocity of about 715 meters per second. The M14 uses the full power 7.62 by 51mm NATO, zipping out at 853 meters per second. That's faster and hits harder downrange. Weight. Empty, the AK is lighter at 3.47 kilograms without a mag, or about 4.3 kilograms loaded. The M14 tips the scales at 4.1 kilograms empty, up to 5.1 kilograms with a magazine. That extra weight helps with recoil but tires you out carrying it all day. Magazine capacity, standard AK holds 30 rounds in that banana-shaped mag, while the M14 has a 20-round box mag. Rate of fire, cyclic, the AK cranks out 600 rounds per minute, practical semi-auto is 40 rounds per minute, auto around 100. The M14 is faster at 700 to 750 rounds per minute cyclic, but again hard to control. Effective range, AK is good to 350 meters for point targets, up to 500 meters for area fire.
Performance is where these two really differ. Accuracy, range, reliability. On accuracy, the M14 wins hands down because of its longer barrel, tighter build, and more powerful cartridge. You can hit targets at 500 yards consistently, and with a scope, it's sniper level. The AK, it's minute of man at 300 meters. Good enough for suppressive fire, but not for picking off distant enemies. The loose tolerances that make it reliable hurt precision. Range ties into that. M14's effective range is longer, up to 800 meters max, while AK tops at 1500 meters ballistic, but practically much less. But reliability? AK dominates. It runs dirty, wet, or sandy, throw it in mud and it'll still fire. The M14 needs more cleaning. Its tight fit can jam if gunk builds up, as seen in Vietnam's human jungles. In tests, AKs have fired thousands of rounds without cleaning, while M14s require maintenance. Handling and ergonomics. The AK is lighter and shorter, easier to maneuver in close fights or from vehicles. Recoil is stout but manageable, and the controls are intuitive for right-handers. That big safety lever is easy to slap. Lefties might struggle. The stock is straight, so a high bore axis means more muzzle rise. The M14 feels like a full-size rifle, with better cheek weld and less rise due to the design, but it's heavier, so fatigue sets in faster. Recoil is sharper from the bigger round, and full auto is basically useless unless bipod mounted. For modern users, both can be modded with stocks, grips, but out of the box, AK is simpler for beginners. Cost and availability. In the US, civilian semi-auto AK-47 variants like the Wasser 10 or Zastava Z-PAP go for around $983 new on average, as low as $600 for basic models, up to $1,500 for fancy ones. Easy to find, tons of parts. The M14 civilian version, the Springfield M1A, averages $1,452 new, with models from $1,500 to over $2,500 depending on features, like the SOCOM 16 at $2,129. Rarer, more expensive ammo too. 7.62 by 51mm costs more than 7.62 by 39mm. Military surplus AKs flood the market, keeping prices down. Usage-wise, militarily, AK is everywhere. Over 100 countries use variants. M14 is mostly retired in the US, but still in some roles, like Navy SEALs or as DMRs. Civilian side, both popular for shooting sports, hunting, AK for hogs at close range, M14 for deer at distance. Wrapping this up, the AK-47 shines in reliability, ease of use, and affordability, making it perfect for harsh environments or budget builds. The M14 takes the crown for accuracy, power, and range, ideal if you need to reach out and touch someone far away. It depends on your needs. For survival or guerrilla stuff, go AK. For precision work, M14. Neither is perfect, but both are legends for a reason.